Steve, the other thing is, I spoke to Jeff about this yesterday. Jeff's former partner on talk radio, Chris Tidmore, has an article in the Louisiana Weekly, and I'm trying to pull that up right now, and I'm not having a lot of success. Anyway, basically, it recounts from an unknown source within the GOP, according to Chris Tidmore, where Roger Villery wanted to talk to Vance McAllister. The chief of staff for McAllister was trying to get a hold of him. Anyway, I finally asked Villery, what do you want? And he said, well, I'm going to ask him to resign. From memory, I'm trying to recall, evidently this chief of staff called back to Roger Villery and said, if you do that, he is prepared to expose, to out a whole series of Republican office holders here in the state of Louisiana who are also having extramarital sex. Now that's in the Louisiana Weekly. I think it was published on the 14th of this month. And I wanted to know if you saw that. And finally, I'm looking at something on Bayoubuzz right now where small item, according to the Louisiana Democratic Party press release, they're calling for an initiative, I guess, to let the people of the state of Louisiana to vote on whether or not Medicaid should be expanded here in the state. You know, the conservatives, especially the Christian conservatives, love to talk about, well, the people voted, and they voted no on same-sex marriage, and that's the voice of the people. Now, let's say how likely is it, Steve, that we're going to see this? That the people will be able to vote? Because Jeff and Steve, there are people in this state who are not getting medical care because of the selfish motives of Bobby Jindal wanting to enhance his political career nationally. And I'll just listen off.
All right, I'll respond and then I'll turn it over to Steve. I think it's unlikely that you'll have a vote on that statewide. If you did, I don't think it would pass. Steve, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, regarding his other comment, I actually did read the article, and that's because James had brought it up last week. We did post part of that article regarding the threat that was made, or alleged threat that was made, and I communicated with Tidmore about it, and he told me that there was going to be a follow-up. So, James, I'll check that out and see whether or not there is a follow-up. I mean, obviously, my question is, how does this this person working for McAllister at the time, or and still, how does he know who is doing what? Do they have cameras in the bedrooms of the elected officials? I mean, how do they know? So, you know, it's just something that I mean, Tidmore had wrote about, and we'll check it out. As far as the other, I agree with Jeff about one thing here, and that is that I don't think that Louisiana voters would approve it. Am I in favor of it? Well, I would want to ask, why is this different from other issues and where there might be a referendum on the ballot? You can always make the argument that well, the people should decide instead of the legislators. So why is this different? I'm not saying it's not. Personally, I think it's going to cost Louisiana a lot more money and hurt a lot more people not extending the Medicaid situation if Governor Jindal does not have a plan, and to my knowledge right now, he doesn't have a plan to be able to deal with this situation.
Well, he did announce a plan, a health care plan, but I think that was more national in scope. I think that was a few weeks ago that he released his own health care plan.
Well, yeah, and isn't that kind of interesting that he released a 50-page, I'm exaggerating, healthcare plan, national healthcare plan, but down here in Louisiana, where he's governor, at least I believe he is, you know, we don't have a plan. The hospitals, for an example, say they're losing on this, okay, because they're not being reimbursed sufficiently. So, you know, this whole thing, if he's going to plan.
Well, just to clarify, he's not the only governor who has decided not to expand Medicaid. I mean, that's been a position that I think the majority of Republican governors have taken.
Sure, and I agree, and I think that they need to make the argument what they're going to do in place of.
Mm-hmm.
Not every state has the incredible poverty and 49 or 50 in the nation in terms of bad health, and which has actually been aggravated by Jindal, because we could have done something about smoking in public places, and he was against that. The only time that he was in favor of it was to raise revenues for the state. So, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Now, he makes the claim that expanding Medicaid is something we can't afford that would bust our budget. You don't buy that?
Well, from everything I've read in terms of legislators, I don't think they buy it either. I mean, please, if I'm wrong there, if they can show me how paying 10% of the budget. What concerns me is what it may do to the federal budget, but I'm not concerned as much about what's going to do to the state budget.
But of course, the federal budget is funded by what? Taxpayers, right? I mean, isn't it all our money? I mean, we pay for it one way or another, don't we?
Yes, it is, and I think that's an argument, and I've always said that one thing that concerns me is what might happen nationally. But statewide, I mean, right now we have an article on Bayoubuzz where written by Tyler Bridges, if I'm not mistaken, where we're going to be close to $1 billion in the hole next year. Jindal is going to be up there in Washington, and we're going to be suffering from Jindalese. And
let's
that's
do
what's
this. Limited time, but I want to squeeze in one more call. Let's give the floor to the Flaming Liberal. Limited time. Go ahead, Flaming Liberal. Go ahead. You've got the floor.
By the way, Bobby Jindal's Only Health and Health and Hospitals did a study and found it would save the state money over a 10-year period. Jeff, I just sent you an Associated Press article. I think the holy grail of news reporting. And Steve, I gave you a copy as well. And Steve, thank you for allowing me to get a plug in when you were hosting last week for my May 22nd, 2010 Vitter column when you had Cincinnati on, and I think it left him speechless. But the guy who owns the website said there was a huge spike in hits on my Vitter column. But Jeff, getting back to that article I just sent to you, according to the Associated Press, the journal Science, the holy grail of scientific reporting, found that a fossil study from the last ice age found that the Earth, the warming of the temperature is happening more rapidly right now than it did at the end of the last great ice age.
All right, I'll check out that article. Thank you, Flaming Liberal. Thank you, Steve Saladowski. Appreciate it very much. Whole lot more coming your way. We got to roll because it's 10 o'clock. Time for the latest from NBC News.